In this video, I'm going to show you how to configure the reporting website. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is launch SiteAudit as an administrator. This is one of the only times that you ever have to do that. And how you do that is you can select the icon, right click on it, and then select Run as Administrator. Okay, when you do that, if you have UAC enabled, it may ask you to elevate, and you would say yes. And once you do that, then you're able to set up the reporting website. Now, first thing I want to do is make sure that we're properly licensed to use the reporting website. And if you haven't watched the prior video on how to configure IIS for the reporting website, you may want to refer to that video first before proceeding. So if you go to Diagnostics and Configuration Details, you'll see a view like this, Expand License Information, and if you see Web Reports in here, that means that you do have a license to run the reporting website. And now what we're going to do is configure the reporting website so that it points to this SiteAudit database so that you can get reports. How you do that is you come over here to Setup, go to Website Database Configuration, and it'll pop up this dialog that identifies the server and the database that you want to connect to and how you plan to access that that database or that SQL server, either using integrated security or using SQL authentication. Prior to once you hit OK, that's what's going to configure the reporting website. You can always use this test button to make sure that you do have access before doing that. Now, the one thing I want to show before I set this, I'm going to cancel right now, is that by default the reporting website is going to be configured to point to whatever database that you already have configured. So in this particular case, I'm pointing to a SQL server named Ridgeback and a database with the name 00000, and I'm using SQL authentication. So when I come in to configure the reporting website, that's the default information I see, and it's typically exactly what you want. So I'm just going to hit OK, and that has taken care of the configuration. Okay, so now we should be able to go to a browser and go to http://localhost/reporting website. Okay, and that should navigate us to our reporting website. I'm going to just hit OK, and we'll just see what happens. Okay, as we can see, this is the reporting website. It came up by default, and as you can see here, it's pointing, this is the SQL server and the database that we had identified. Also, you can see over here on the right who's logged in to the reporting website, because it is possible to restrict access to various reports and things here. Now, depending how SiteAudit's configured here through your database, we may need to make some changes in IIS to get the reports to work. So for example, suppose that when you first launched this, there was you did not see this page. That would indicate that there was a problem with the reporting website. And if you come out here to support.netaphor.com under reporting website, if you you'll need to log in for reports. There's Troubleshooting IIS and the reporting website. So this is the troubleshooting dialog, and basically it gives various issues that you may run across, and if you find the issue that you run into, typically the one that you might have is this access to path denied. And so this kind of explains to you how you might resolve that. So let's just see how we're doing. So this is our reporting website. I'm just going to run a report to see if it comes up. I'll do an HTML report. And as I can see, it says, we're sorry, we are unable to satisfy your request. Now, this typically happens based on how you are configured to log in to the SQL server. And as we've seen here, we're logged in using SQL authentication. So what we have to do is go into IIS, Actually, let's take a look at our troubleshooting guide. So it says, we're sorry, we're unable to satisfy your request. So let's take a look and see what it says we should do. So unable to satisfy your request right here. So what this says is that there are a few possible causes. The reporting website has not been configured to point to a database. So we know we've done that. Okay, so if we had not gone through here and configured it, then we would get that same type of error. Second cause is it says the credentials must be entered into the application pool identity. Okay, so that's one possible cause. And what they mean by that is the same credentials that are used here may need to be entered into the application pool in IIS. Okay. Third, anonymous authentication is enabled, or ASP.NET impersonation is enabled. So let's take a look at IIS. We can do that by going to your Start menu and just typing IIS. And we should see the Internet Information Services Manager. So let's select that. Okay. And let's expand this, and we should be able to go inside here and see the reporting website right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is come over to authentication. Let's double click this to open it, and we can see impersonations enabled and Windows authentication is enabled. So what we're going to do is let's delete or disable impersonation. Okay, and let's just see if that did anything. So we'll come back out here and we'll refresh our report to see if we get a report. And we have our report. So that was the solution. If you're running, if you're using SQL authentication, you're going to want to disable impersonation. Okay, so we're pretty much set there. Let's try to see what would happen if we were connected using integrated security. Okay, in this case, I've configured to point to a different server and database, and this time I'm using integrated security. So I'm going to come over to my website database configuration, and I'm going to say OK, and this is going to set up my reporting website to have the same access as SiteAudit Viewer. Okay. All right, so now let's go out and try to run some reports. Okay, so I'll go to inventory again, and I'm going to bring up an HTML report. And again, you can see it says, we're sorry, we're unable to satisfy your request. Now, if we go back out to, let's go back to the support site. And again, we'll go to navigate to this unable to satisfy your request. And the second, we know that we've already configured the site, so credentials must be entered into the application pool identity. What does that mean? Let's take a look. It essentially means that whoever is logged into this machine, or whatever credentials are logged into this machine, are the credentials that need to be entered into the application pool identity. If you don't know who's logged into the machine, you can always go into your task manager and look at the users, and you can see here who is logged in. So this is the administrator. Okay, so I'm going to go to IIS, and I'm going to go to the application pools here. Here's the reporting website application pool, and I'm going to go to advanced settings. If we scroll down a little bit here, here is the identity, and by default it uses application pool identity to access the site, and we're going to use a custom account, and here's where we're going to enter the information. So this machine is KS test 2012, and the user's administrator, and I'll enter the password, the credentials, we'll hit OK, and OK. And now the reporting website are going to use these credentials when accessing the site. So now let's see how we do. So come back over here and we're going to hit refresh. And what we've learned today is one is that we have to have a web report license for web reports. We have to launch the SiteAudit Viewer as an administrator and then go to Website Database Configuration and hit OK, and that's going to configure the reporting website. And then what we learned is that when we go to the reporting website, if we're not able to generate a report, the reason is likely has to do with how we are logged into the SQL server. When we're logged in using SQL authentication, we'll want to come to the reporting website and make sure that impersonation is turned off. Okay? When we're using Windows authentication, we need to be sure that we change the application pool identity here. Okay, so if you have any problems getting your reports working for the reporting website, just follow those steps. If those don't work for you, feel free to come back out to the troubleshooting guide and maybe try one of these other steps that it has here, and that'll get you working. Okay, so at this point now we're able to generate any reports that we want from the reporting website.